Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to a hypnosis session created for a client that wanted to change an addiction that they felt had a real grip on their life, their quality of their life, their energy, but more importantly, what toll it could take on their future life. And sometimes a good way of framing an addiction that hasn't led to devastating, irretrievable, or irreversible consequences is that it is the absolute best time to leave before the chickens come home to roost. And there are too many people that, let's say they smoke and then they get lung cancer, or they'll have, let's say, a cocaine addiction and then have a deviated septum. So there are certain things that even if you try and patch things up with surgery and tumor removals and things like that, it can never be what it was before. And therefore, framing an addiction that hasn't had the serious consequences, and these serious consequences don't have to be health consequences. Some addictions can lead to the decline of a career, or it can lead to the change in dynamic in a relationship, many different things. But leaving before it gets to that point and framing it that way actually creates a huge payoff of making a decision. And most people stick to an addiction because at some level it's giving them something. That might be a feeling of pleasure or gratification, or a feeling of control, or a feeling of it's an antidote to boredom or stimulation. It's doing something. People aren't idiots. They don't keep doing something that is only destructive, but that doesn't mean that it's still something worth continuing to do. And I think when you re-look at an addiction is quite an insidious thing in the sense that when you first encounter something, you associate into the pleasurable elements and you disassociate away from the consequences because they seem unlikely and very far away. But as time goes on, generally what tends to happen is that there is more evidence that the consequences are coming, and any of the pleasurable elements tend to decline, and they tend to decline for two reasons. One, quite often the novelty wears off, and secondly, the body habituates to most, let's say, pharmacological or substance-based addictions. It just adapts. Therefore, it's giving less and less pleasure and increasing the probability of consequences. And that's really what this session is all about. It's designed to re-look at an addiction. This addiction was cocaine, and saying, is it doing what it's designed to do? And normally what can really lead to, rather than trying to use willpower to fight an addiction, sometimes it's easier to give it a new connotation, a new meaning, and ask the bigger question, which is, do I still need this? Do I still want this? Is this still working? And you're going to hear a reference to almost treating it like it's an old friendship. And generally through life, friendships can kind of fizzle out. Good friends that you used to have as a child, you probably don't have necessarily those same friendships, or at least not all of those friendships now. And treating an addiction to a substance like a friendship that you've outgrown, again, is quite a useful way to give it a new connotation, because you don't need willpower to not maintain a relationship with someone that you're not particularly friends with anymore. And that is a useful framework to get to that point that in therapy we call the point of threshold, which is the point at which a decision is made that you don't go back on. And that's because it's normally a life-changing decision where you're getting so much more of what you want and less of what you don't. If you feel that you're battling or struggling with an addiction or a serious habit, and you feel that a bespoke session might be useful for you, please click the link in the show notes to schedule a completely free 30-minute consultation call to explore working with me. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place that you won't be disturbed. If cocaine isn't the substance that you're addicted to, just psychologically replace any references to cocaine with whatever your addiction is, and that way this session will still be useful. So find a quiet, comfortable place, relax, and just see if you can reach your point of threshold in this particular session. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of calm and relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow feelings of tension, stress, or worry to feel like they're just melting away. Focus on a tiny dot in the middle of your forehead, and with your eyes closed, still focus on that tiny spot just there in the middle of your forehead, feeling a strange feeling of concentration and tension just there at that location. Feeling your eyes looking upwards, almost cross-eyed and upwards at the same time under closed eyelids. Feel that tension increase, but as you breathe in that resourceful feeling of relaxation that is making your eyelids feel heavier and heavier and heavier. And then on the outward breath, shift your focus down to your nose and feel a wave of relaxation go down from the top of your head down to your jaw. And as you breathe in more of that sense of calm, relaxation, and feeling that you can release and let go of whatever isn't needed. Breathing in, breathing out, taking you deeper and deeper relaxed. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to imagine a child holding a helium balloon in one hand and an ice cream in the other. Imagine this child on a Spanish beach with white sands, under blue skies and a hot sun. And as you stare at the helium balloon, feel a lightness rising up in your body, releasing any tension in your neck and your shoulders, almost like your head is similar to that helium balloon, just feeling like it's floating there. No need for tension, just there, effortlessly being held upwards. And maybe you could imagine what your arms and legs would also feel like if they were as light as a helium balloon. And then stare at the ice cream under the sunshine, and as you see it melting away, imagine how it would feel like for all tension and all anxiety hidden somewhere in your tendons and muscle tissue to also melt away. And maybe you could imagine that ice cream melting so fast that it just drips down perhaps a cone or the fingers of the child. Breathe in, breathe out, get a feeling of tension melting away. That's it. Deeper and deeper relaxed. And I want you to imagine there is a lounger or just a very big blanket or beach towel there on that beach. And position yourself there on that beach in a way that you can fully relax. Continue to breathe in and breathe out and just feel tension melting away. And as I count down from 5 to 1, with each descending number, just imagine what it would feel like to sink downwards, so deeply relaxed that you can drift off into a deep, imaginative sleep. And you could imagine what sleeping would be like as 5, just releasing all tension in the muscles in your forehead, face, jaw. 4, arms and legs just feeling simultaneously light and floaty like the helium balloon, but also heavy like lead. And allow this contradictory confusion to take you deeper and deeper relaxed. 3, as you breathe in, allow your internal organs to relax, finding it easier, if not effortless, to breathe in and breathe out, deeper and deeper relaxed. Legs just feeling so limp and loose, like limbs of a puppet with no strings. Feeling a desire to yawn there on that beach. 2 and then 1, and just imagine drifting off to a deep, deep sleep. And then imagine that you can see yourself there on that beach, fast asleep. And I want you to find somewhere else on this beach. Perhaps you can see children playing. And I want you to make an evaluation that you feel good, that life is good, that this is a good use of your time. I want you to simultaneously make the evaluation that you don't need anything to feel good. No need for food, drink, drugs of any kind. Doing things that bring you joy is all you need to have that joy. And as you make that evaluation, you realize that there's been many moments like this. Moments that you didn't need to consume or take something to change your state. That your life is full of wonderful feelings that came from doing real things with real people. And perhaps real experiences rather than synthetic, manufactured emotions give you the ability to dispel any myth or misconception that in some way you need something. I want you to imagine drifting off back to a moment in the past where you decided that there was one thing you didn't need anymore. Maybe a change to something up to that point was becoming a bit of a habit, maybe even an addiction. Go back to that moment and see that version of you at the very point where you made a decision that you didn't need something anymore. And when you can observe that version of you, safe in the knowledge that back then you had the resources to make a decision that led to a healthier future, let me know by nodding your head. And then step into that version of you where it must be the case that you had the exact combination of motivation and the neural pathways required to just make a decision. So I want you to tap into that wonderful feeling that came from what's called the point of threshold. The straw that breaks the camel's back. The moment where enough is enough and no more. And I want you to feel that that now exists within you. And some of the best decisions are made when your hand is not forced. People can make reluctant decisions if they're pressured or hounded into making a decision, but they don't tend to last. The decisions that last are when a person evaluates their life and comes to the conclusion that it isn't doing what it needs to do to justify continue doing it. And maybe you can think of something that is now taking more than it's giving. Or maybe this is the optimal time to bow out before any of the big consequences start to materialize. And there's sayings in the world of gambling. Sometimes you've got to take your winnings. You've got to leave the table when the chips are there, not when they're all gone. I want you to make the evaluation that there is an area of your life that you would like to change. And maybe there's been some mild health consequences, some definite financial consequences, but it hasn't destroyed the perception of those people that you love and they love you. There hasn't been an irreversible health consequence yet. And maybe this is a good time to get out while the going is still good. As you breathe in and breathe out, just imagine walking away from the beach to the dunes. And maybe these dunes have two different pathways taking you to two different futures. I want you to imagine a future where you continue your existing relationship with cocaine. I want you to imagine what that would be like. That the current trajectory continues. And maybe the dealers change every now and then. Maybe even the quantity changes. Like a roller coaster, higher and lower, but still consistent. And I want you to follow that pathway, not to the good times, of which there will be some, but to the probable or likely consequences. If you buy enough raffle tickets, sooner or later you're going to win a prize. And I want you to imagine each and every time you consume cocaine or snort a line, you're buying a raffle ticket to an undesirable consequence, and go forwards down this timeline and experience some of these undesirable consequences. Maybe you can imagine the quantities increase, and maybe it affects your health so that your source of income is affected to change your lifestyle. Maybe it's a health consequence. Go forwards in time until you could imagine coughing up blood or sneezing blood into a tissue. Perhaps you can go so far into the future you could imagine an X-ray. So you get to see all of that corrosion that took place. The soft palate, the top of your mouth, septum, all those nasal cavities that just become burned away. Or maybe you go forwards in future to a time where your children see you in a different way. They put you in a category that you don't want them to perceive you as. And maybe that's an unfair category, or maybe it's the truth. But feel like you're not just seeing these moments, that you're feeling these moments. Feel how you would feel if some respect or admiration or prestige was taken away from you through the eyes of the people you love the most. Right now, maybe there's never been a period of time of serious illness, but you could go forwards in time and feel what it would feel like to be sick for weeks on end because your immune system has been battered by prioritizing gratification over health and well-being. Experience and feel the consequences until you reach that point of threshold. Enough is enough. And when you feel that you can avoid a collision course with the future that you don't want, simply by making a decision like you've made in the past. And when you're ready to make that decision, let me know by nodding your head. And sometimes there's a lag time between making a decision and implementing a decision. So I want you to imagine what it would be like to implement this decision. I want you to imagine what the next few hours would look like. Maybe deleting certain numbers, blocking some numbers, deleting history so you can't even find it if you were looking. I want you to imagine how you could burn some bridges. I want you to imagine how you could create certain limitations. Maybe if there's any cocaine still in your house, you could do something ritualistic, not just flush it down the toilet, but do something symbolic to represent a new identity, that you don't want it, you don't need it, and you'll never touch it again. And then perhaps imagine the following day, noticing how you start to feel a tiny bit better. But rather than taking something to feel good, it's the absence of that thing that truly makes you feel good. I want you to consider cocaine as a thief, stealing your life force, stealing your money, stealing your energy, your motivation, stealing your creative ideas. It takes it all. And try and think about what it actually gives back, other than fatigue, low energy, low mood, the occasional paranoia. I want you to feel that if cocaine was a friend, this is a friendship you've now outgrown. And maybe you can remember friends from school or college that were good friends, but you don't see them or talk to them anymore. And therefore you've got evidence that things change over time. Things that were fine at one point in your life sometimes reach a point where they're just not good for you or good for them. So imagine reaching the conclusion that you've outgrown this relationship. You don't want it, you don't need it anymore. That there are so many other ways that you can feel better, to feel more sociable. That this doesn't even deserve to be on the top 20 list of things to do those things. And maybe they were just excuses to justify something that did what you wanted it to do. But maybe you're chasing an echo of the past. That the most recent experience probably wasn't the same as your very first experience. Sometimes we hold on to the idea of what we want things to be, not what they actually are. I want you to see cocaine as a thief of your dreams, your energy, your motivation. And I want you to imagine what it looks like 2, 3, or 4 weeks from now. No cocaine, no contact. If any dealers message you, see the phone in your hand as you block that new number too. Feel a sense of empowerment, mental strength, progress, as you make it clear to yourself and to others, you do not want this or need this anymore. Follow that timeline. Perhaps imagining teenage children asking you questions about drugs, what they should say if they feel pressured, and to feel that you can have a more reasonable conversation with them when you're free of an addiction to it. Breathe in, breathe out. Continue down this timeline and associate into all of those benefits that come from feeling with more health, vitality, and energy and well-being. Each breath you take fills you with the strength to resist cocaine's allure, enhancing your health and well-being. And imagine your heart expanding with love and presence for your children, stronger with each day free from cocaine. Feel a powerful sense of control returning to your life, steering you away from cocaine's grip. And sure enough, you're saving money. But what's more important is what you can do with that money. Imagine doing wonderful things with people you love the most that make you feel way better than the original cocaine would have ever done. And you can envision your sinuses clear and healthy, breathing easily without the burn of cocaine or just the aftermath of it. But also notice the heavy drinking is less and less too, replaced by refreshing, energizing activities. Feel how you would feel playing tennis more, being more sporty, active, maybe swimming or running or doing a different sport. Imagine when you wake up, you feel rejuvenated, full of energy for the day, without that cocaine fatigue. Notice the absence of any paranoia, a sense of ever-increasing self-esteem and confidence. You like who you are, you respect who you are, and you could be who you are without the need of any influence over your human biology. Embrace the joy of relationships enriched by genuine connections, not clouded by substance. And recognize the nicotine that maybe came from vaping is getting less and less. Consumption of beer reducing, perhaps even fading into the background. Crutches you just don't need to use anymore. And you can relish in those social encounters that are more meaningful and satisfying because you are not under the influence of anything. You can truly be who you are, but also embrace the sense of accomplishment with each passing day, your determination, and this new identity growing stronger and stronger. And then see yourself as the person you've always wanted to be, living a life free from the shadows of cocaine, giving you the ability to hold on to the image of a future where cocaine has no place, filled instead with happiness, health, and love. Imagine seeing yourself 5 years from now. See the contrast of that version of you 5 years from now, standing side by side with that version that continued to use cocaine for another 5 years. And sometimes you only notice the difference when you compare them like for like. As you see that version of you looking fatigued, unhealthy, aged skin, and maybe even a smell, and compare that with that fresh, healthy, vibrant version of you brimming with vitality, and make a decision. Who do you want to be? Knowing that you could choose to be either. And if you're ready to really choose who you want to be, giving your future self a gift of health, vibrancy, and vitality, let me know by nodding your head. And think of 2 or 3 immediate things you can do to turn a decision into something that feels like you've already implemented it. And when you've thought of those 2 or 3 things to do, let me know by nodding your head. Find yourself back on that beach, lying down, resting. But as you get up from that lounger or beach towel, feel that you're getting up free from any addiction to cocaine. Imagine hugging your children, feeling that connection, feeling that life is about to get so much better. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Feel connected in the present moment as you wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. I will now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, and you will awaken with a decision being made. A decision that aligns with your highest values, giving you a wonderful gift here in the present, and more importantly, in your future. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.